Hello, everyone. I'm Erika Ellis from Living Joyfully, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Anna Brown and Pam Laricchia. Hello to you both.
So,
So today we're continuing our series of episodes reflecting on the 10-year anniversary of the Exploring Unschooling podcast. I know the podcast has been so influential to so many people, as it has been for me on my unschooling journey. And recently, what has really deepened my understanding and learning and enriched my life in countless ways is the Living Joyfully Network. Our community of parents on Mighty Networks is a wonderful place to explore all of the questions and aha moments that come up on this journey. I love our live conversations and our monthly topics to consider, and I've made so many amazing friends. Every day I feel both inspired and calmed by the network. The topics we dive into inspire me to look closer and grow as a person. And when everyone shares their unique experiences, I just feel grounded in knowing that we're doing this together. It really is an amazing space, and we'd love for you to join us. You can find the link in the show notes or visit livingjoyfully.ca to learn more about joining and our new free trial month offer. So, in this episode, we're going to be reflecting on the question, what has changed? And as Pam said last time, 10 years is a good chunk of time, and we've all definitely grown and changed during that time. So, I'm excited for this discussion. Would you like to get us started, Pam?
absolutely, absolutely. So, for me, when I started this podcast 10 years ago, my work was pretty much focused on unschooling, around exploring the choice to go to school or not go to school. So, back when I realized that was even a choice and quickly found unschooling, it felt like a fundamental or a foundational choice in our life. I mean, culturally, school was and mostly still is so integrally woven into childhood that it seems that school is like the most important aspect of childhood. Everything else is extracurricular activities, right? It's right there in the language, people. So, what's changed for me over the last decade is that I now see unschooling kind of as a branch of the tree of childhood and not the roots. For me, what lives in the roots and truly redefines childhood is cultivating connected and supportive relationships with our kids and giving them agency over their lives, right? So, not as in leaving them to their own devices or insisting that they make all their decisions, but living consensually as a family, as you talked about in the last episode, Anna. How they feel and what they think matters. We all have value, regardless of age, right? And they may or may not want school to be part of their lives. It's just a question. It's not like the fundamental question of childhood, or it doesn't have to be, right? And that answer may well change over time, right? School is a choice alongside the many other choices in their lives. So that said, unschooling can be a great window into this way of being in relationship with our kids. And I think because it's often the first place that real conflict can arise, like when a kid and the school classroom environment just don't mix well, that can be like, oh, what's up here? And that was definitely my path, but it's certainly not the only path to discovering the far reaching and lifelong impact of just cultivating those connected relationships with our kids, right? There's where the rich soil and the roots are, I think.
I know. Well, gosh, it's so interesting because I love a tree analogy, because I love
Yep.
trees. But it's funny because in the early days for me, I actually saw consensual living as like the umbrella, and unschooling was one choice, because that's the piece that you're getting at is like unschooling is one choice when we're living, we have children making autonomous decisions and having agency about how they want to spend their time, how they want to engage in the world, how we want to do that together as a family. And so I really love that distinction. And I do think it evolved really for all of us over, because I think especially for you, Pam, because you came from school to
Yeah.
unschooling, like it's a little bit different. Eric and I both, like, we always have unschooled with our kids. So I think that's why maybe for me, I had that different view of it earlier on. But I think it's critical because you're right. I think it's that first touch point that people come to, like this flash point with school where it can be so intense and you kind of feel like you're losing your child or their light is dimming and it feels scary. And so unschooling can be this beautiful door to walk through to realize that there are different ways. But yeah, I think once you're there and realize, oh, it's actually about the connection, it's actually about the relationship we have. And then together we can make the choices that best serve us, whatever that looks like. And of course, I mean, I love unschooling, we all do here, but yeah, I really love putting it in that place. It's the relationships that are so important. So yeah, I love talking about this one.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of my perfection piece from the last one because I
Mhm.
remember when I first found unschooling, it's like, well, if you are putting your kids in school, then you're not unschooling. And then, you know what I mean? Like it was all connected.
Sure.
It's like you have to make that decision in order to be doing it right because I was looking for how to do it right. And so it really has been a journey, kind of a mindset journey to get to the place of realizing it's not about school. It's not about any one particular, choice that may or may not look mainstream. It's about what does the child want? What is the relationship, with the child feeling like? And so I think unschooling kind of answers one problem, which is, the child is hating school. And so unschooling is a way to respect their autonomy in that way. And then a whole bunch of other possibilities open up, but we've seen so many amazing families with these amazing connected relationships, and then the kids are deciding to go to school, and that doesn't change that
Mhm.
core value and that root of what is amazing about their families, which is listening to each other, making sure that we're not pushing past someone else's consent. And so yeah, it's just like it's very eye-opening to get to that place where it really is not it's not about school, it's not about that decision. It's about something deeper than that.
Something deeper, so much more. And yes, we have episodes on the podcast where I've talked to parents whose kids have gone to school and
Right.
like other than the like time structure, like the timetable shift, so much doesn't need to change. You don't all of a sudden have to become
Yeah.
a different kind of parent or have a different kind of relationship just because school happens to be in the picture. But yes, it definitely takes that set
Yeah.
shift, right? To recognize it's like it's not like one life I'm unschooling or I'm not unschooling. It's when you get to the roots of the relationship
Yeah.
and start looking at your days and your lives from there, it's just a fundamentally different way. And unschooling is one of the choices that like is
Right.
like, and it's not even unschooling, no, because that's fundamentally like
Right.
the perspective. I think when you take that journey to recognize the importance and value of the relationships, but like the school choice, whether or not school happens
Yes,
to be part of your
exactly.
lives
Yeah.
for a season or for however long it works. And the fundamental difference is that it's still a choice, right? And
That's what
kids
I was
can be
going to
like,
say. It's choice and agency, right? Like
yep,
that's the fundamental difference. And that's why it feels different. That's why, the families that on the network that have kids that have gone back to school, it feels so different because it's choice and agency that's driving it versus have to and cultural expectation. And so it's just really interesting to kind of tease apart how different the same thing, can feel when you're coming at it from that deeply rooted place that you're talking about. So yeah, I love that. Okay, so for me, one of the big, big ones that has changed, I would say kind of refined, and we've honed in on it, is this idea that people are different and how that permeates everything. In the early days, we talked a lot about celebrating the uniqueness of our children. We talked about coming up with solutions that worked for everyone, taking the time to listen, to understand all these different perspectives. So the groundwork was there for that understanding, but something really clicked when we started talking specifically about how people are different because we are so different. We process information so differently. We prioritize things differently. We see and experience the world differently. There are so many ways that we are different. It is endless. And it's funny because Nora in the network just was sharing on one of our weekly calls, another one that popped up for her, like, this is another people are different thing. And she was talking about what motivates us to complete a task because she was noticing that she and her husband really take these very opposite approaches. He likes to make the task easy, she likes to make the task interesting. And so, like, they're coming at it at this very, very different way. And it's just another way that they're different. One is not better than the other, one is not right or wrong. And when we start with that fundamental understanding that our brains are unique and we all have our own way of moving through the world, we can let go of the defensiveness. We don't have to defend our way of being. We don't have to convince someone else to see it our way or that our way is right. We can get curious, and we talk about that so much. We can start enjoying the process of understanding ourselves and others without getting stuck on there being a right way or a better way, which we've also touched on this month. And I'm not going to tangent off into all the differences because they're just literally too many. But it definitely comes up in the podcast. We've talked about it there. We talk about it a lot on the network. But so what I'm getting at today is really this more like general open curiosity about exploring the ways that we're different and ultimately celebrating them and getting excited about these different ways, not taking them personally, not being defensive, just getting excited and thinking how cool it is. Because when we feel that defensiveness slip away, it really leaves space for this deeper, more meaningful connection and a deeper understanding, again, of both ourselves and those around us. I think it's been so interesting because just that understanding of people are different, I've learned more about myself because there's something that allows me to kind of go, okay, yeah, that's actually really important to me. Like, that's the way my brain works. That's the way I need something to be presented or the way I need to move through something. I don't know. Whereas I felt like before it was more external, I'm just trying to kind of push my way through, or this is how it has to be done, or I don't know how to explain it, but that the nuance of that really has helped me understand myself more, understand my relationships more, the people in my life more. I mean, this is a piece I'm going to be exploring and talking about the rest of my life because it's just so fundamental.
It's such a huge paradigm shift, and it has helped me so, so, so much. And right, it's almost hard to talk about like the
Right.
depth of what this is doing in my mind to be able to think this way. And so what I can kind of remember is that before these big, mindset shifts,
Yeah.
it was more like um I want to find out the right way
Mhm.
to do this thing, or the right way to be
Yeah.
like this. And if something's hard for me, that's something that I should work on. Or if something's hard for someone else, that's the area they need to improve, or that kind of thing, rather than just saying this thing is hard for me, that other thing is hard for you, and working to our strengths
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
realizing our differences. And I love the part about how it makes communicating about ourselves with other people. It just has none of that kind of fighting energy,
Right.
none of this
Right.
kind of like argument energy of like, you're doing it wrong, I'm doing it right, or I feel like I need to just keep apologizing for myself because I just can't get my stuff together. I can't handle this for whatever reason. And so just realizing all of these different layers at which we are just so different from each other and accepting it is like it has been a complete game changer in all of my relationships. I can start to notice, like, oh, that's why that thing has always bothered me about how that person does it. It's like it's just because that doesn't make sense to my
Yeah.
mind. So I feel like anytime we come upon something that someone else is doing and we say to ourselves, it just doesn't make sense. Like, why are they doing that? It doesn't make any sense. Then that's our clue of like, we've hit upon people are different again because it makes sense to them. And yeah, it's just so deep and rich and one of my favorite topics.
Oh, yeah, yeah, me too. And it's another beautiful example of unschooling as a window because that
Yeah.
I start my, like you were talking about, Anna, like at first, we have always used that language when it comes to our kids because that's kind of where I first discovered how different people could be and that it felt wrong to like correct them because
Yeah.
it was working for them. They did it their way and it was working out fine. And I was like, oh, it was part of my whole journey around like mistakes are bad, right? They did it this way, and that was different than the way I would have ever thought to do it. And look, it still worked, right? So that was the fundamental kind of first um, observations. I think that set me down this path. Like you said, there's just so many layers because then it was like, oh, like there's a reason they did it. That those kinds of, and you see that consistency over time. It's like they think about this differently than I do. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. And I could see how my kids were different. And then it was like, oh, then you start questioning like kind of that age component, right? And then it's like, oh, I can see how I like to do things particular ways, and then it just starts layer by layer. You find all the different ways, discover more ways that people are different. You discover that it's like not just kids are different, like they're people. And the whole people are when we just, I don't even remember when that phrase first popped up,
Yeah.
but it just encapsulated everything so beautifully, and it sounds so simple on the surface. People are different,
Yeah.
and you say that to anybody and people go, of course, like they like this and they like that, but it's just so
Yeah.
fundamentally different and deeper. And once you start kind of using that lens, like you were
Yeah.
saying, I think it was you, but like when I see somebody doing something and like I would never do it that way, to go to, oh, people are different rather than they're doing it wrong. I should tell them how to do it properly or more effectively or more efficiently or whatever lens we think we have improved with the way we choose to do it, to instead use that people are different lens. Oh, and yes, what a great framing for conversations, right? Because it's not judging the way that they're doing it, right? So there is like once they can kind of get on that plate, like when we're coming with language that just isn't, like you were saying, Erin, isn't fighting them, isn't trying to fix them. It just the conversations about it are just so much more interesting because then we're actually learning about ourselves and learning about other people, and then we can bring that consideration with us forward, right? It's
Yeah.
so cool.
It's so cool. And yeah, it's making me remember too, just about, there's so much kind of coming at us in any given moment, so much sensory information, right? And everyone's brain is picking the part that we're paying attention to. And so you can't even say, like, we were all there. Like, how did they not have the same experience as I did? It's because they didn't. Like, they literally
Yeah.
didn't see or hear or feel any. It could be a completely different experience from one person to another. So it kind of makes sense why we're all so different. So anyway, the one I came up with for this question, thinking about what has changed about my understanding over the years, is I think when I was first learning about unschooling, I was so focused on what it meant for the kids, like what they were doing or weren't doing, what I was doing for them or what I was choosing not to do for them. So basically, like how to approach my days with them and with all that focus just going towards them. And over time, that has changed with the realization, and I'm sure it came from the podcast too, that the unschooling journey is my journey to take. Unschooling is really about me letting go of old messages and patterns, digging into the layers to figure out about, why do I react like this? Or, healing a lot of old wounds that can get triggered by parenting. And so it's really a journey of growth for myself that then becomes a benefit to my relationships with my children. And since I'm willing to look at myself and learn and grow, they gradually have a parent who is more
Yeah.
aware, more resourced, and better equipped to support them. And it's this beautiful upward spiral. And it's not to say that it's easy or that, like the upward spiral is just going up and up all the time, but I think it's actually a bit harder that I need to focus on myself and my baggage and all of that in order to move forward. In fact, I know we mention all the time that one of the red flags that we're stressed or maybe have too much on our plates is when we start focusing outside of ourselves and trying to control other people, control our children. It's so much easier to say, you're doing this wrong. I need you to get better than it is to look inside of ourselves. And I think a lot of mainstream parenting is really focused in that way on controlling the kids and looking for the problems that the kids have rather than exploring why we're so activated by certain things that the kids are doing and making changes in ourselves. But I think changing that kind of generational trauma and that generational story, the old patterns, that really has to start with me. And while the kids are focusing on the things they're interested in and growing and gaining skills, I can focus on becoming more and more true to myself and just deschooling all of those internalized beliefs that I took on as I was growing up. And my kids are really actually great guides in this kind of work because they're just naturally so much more in tune with who they are. They have not internalized nearly as many limiting beliefs as I have. And so looking at them inspires me to continue because I think this is, big, challenging work to do, but it's so valuable. And sometimes I can't even believe how much I've changed and grown through my unschooling journey. And I'm really proud of, all the work that I've put into it, and I'm happy that I can live more truthfully now with my family. I really think it's changed our relationships.
I love the more truthfully. Like I love
Yeah.
that phrase because that is what it feels like. And I too had that like that beginning of the journey where because my kids left school, so it was like, oh, what are we going to do instead of school? And it was all very outward focused, right? At first. Right? But then as I discovered unschooling and those kind of questions started bubbling up, oh my gosh, yes, the shift. Then that is something, if you listen to the podcast archive, you will hear people echo. It's like, oh, like, especially when I do like 10 questions episodes where we really dive deeper into people's journeys, it's like, oh, it really was all about me. It really is
Yeah.
all so much my work to do alongside supporting them. But
Right.
if I don't do this work, I am putting so much on top of our relationship and our days that is just doing pretty much nothing but getting in the way.
Yeah.
Right? So it was just a huge thing. And as you said, Erica, it's like it can be such a great clue when we notice we're starting to look outside and like, okay, like I'm feeling like overwhelmed. I need to control other things
Yeah.
just to settle things down. But that is such a great clue to like, oh, like why am I feeling so overwhelmed? Why am I feeling beyond capacity? We like that is just a useful clue. Like again, and not judging right, wrong, good, bad. If you listen to this podcast for a little while, it's not about that. But these are all great clues that help us ask better questions that just help us learn more and live more truthfully. Like that's why it's
Yeah.
that phrase struck me. So that was really cool.
Yeah, I love that too. And this was definitely a part of my journey because right, again, we come from this culture that's like it's so externally focused, do it this way, do the right path, do the thing, all of these pieces. And so, really learning so I don't know if it's in the summit or one of my early talks is all about me. It's called It's All About Me because that was this big revelation of like oh, they're fine. Like they know how to do these things. They know how to learn and grow and make mistakes and be in the world. Like it's me that has all these things to unlearn and unpack to get to that place of alignment, of truth, of, who I am and who I want to be. And that was just amazing to me. Like it was just, I mean, it's terrifying and it's empowering, right? It's kind of
Yeah.
terrifying that, like, wait a minute, now I need to look at all these pieces. But then it's like, but that I can change, right? I think when we're so externally focused, like, I can't change, David, I can't change, my girls like that. They are their own people. And so when we get that, I love that that's a red flag when I'm out there trying to like micromanage everybody around me because it really means probably something's not feeling good for me, something's happening for me. And so again, that can be scary to look at that and do that work. but it is also the thing I can control, which is me, like how I move. And so then that kind of felt exciting. So yeah, this was another huge one for me that just really keeps coming back around. Like it's just that, oh yeah, it's me again. Like it's not them, it's me.
I mean, it makes it easier, right? In a way,
Right, in
because
some
then
ways,
we
right.
have control over that part.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's soothing to think, you know what? Maybe nothing's wrong with those kids.
yeah,
Maybe they're just
yep.
living their lives. So thanks so much to both of you for sharing your reflections. This was really fun. And to everyone listening in their podcast feed or watching on YouTube, we appreciate you joining us. In our next episode, we will be diving into the question of what still matters to us. And so we also invite you to join us in the Living Joyfully Network. We're offering a free month trial so you can come and see what it's like for yourself. And if you enjoy the kinds of conversations we have on the podcast, there's a good chance that that the network might be a great fit for you as well. So I hope to see you there. To learn more and join us, follow the link in the show notes or go to our website, which is livingjoyfully.ca, and click on network in the menu. Wishing everyone a wonderful day.
Take care.
Bye.